Can I afford a house? Well, that's a question a lot of people are asking because the reality is most people can't afford a house right now. Banks are looking at 20% down and the average home is about 400 plus thousand. So, that's like $80,000 that you have to have laying around doing nothing to purchase a home. Plus, you're going to be paying about 7% interest. And yeah, they're coming down just itsy bitsy, but nothing substantial where somebody can afford a house. You could hear it on the internet. Gen Z, that's all they talk about is how you can't afford to buy anything. And they're right. They can't. Can you afford to buy a house? Can I afford to buy a house? Can anybody afford to buy a house? Well, the answer is yes, depending on the strategy. There are so many different strategies that you can use to buy a house that doesn't have to be the conventional way of going to a bank and begging and pleading and have them probe into your credit and request that you put 20% down and for the luxury of paying 7.5% interest. There are strategies that I've spoken about on my channel before. There's seller financing. That's when the seller becomes the bank. And the benefit of that is you can negotiate whatever terms you want. Sometimes they can afford to give you 3, 4, or 5% interest instead of 7. Or they may only request 5% down, which, that's feasible on a $300,000-$400,000 house. The other strategy is trust acquisitions, or more familiarly known as subject to. Trust acquisitions, you always strive for 5% down or 10% down, depending on the house. And we're always searching out for mortgages that have 5% interest or less. I just did a transaction where the mortgage was 3.75%. And the buyer that got into the house only paid 5% down. And that happens all the time. So people can afford to buy a house, but you can't afford to buy a house using a conventional strategy. Most people can't, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. So can you afford to buy a house? Think about it. Maybe you can. You can always click the link in my bio, like and follow to learn more.